So we've seen what happens when Langton's ant starts with a completely white grid, but what happens if we try to block its path? And specifically, what happens if we put a single black square in the path of the highway? Now, obviously the ant's path is going to be the same up until it starts to build the highway, but then once it encounters that obstacle, if you will, then the question is, what happens? So what I'm going to do is show you the beginning of the ant walking around, and then we'll jump ahead to what happens when it encounters the block, and then we'll jump ahead to see what ultimately happens at the end. So let's go ahead and get that started. And you can see the single black square, which is in the path of the highway that the thing will build. And obviously this thing is doing its normal thing. Nothing has changed yet because it hasn't gotten to the point of building that highway. So we'll jump ahead. We'll take a look at what happens when it gets to that point. Alright, so the ant is starting to build the highway, and then it encounters the block. At first it looks like nothing has changed, but then we realize, aha, it's not building the path anymore. And it starts to wander around in a what would appear to be a random fashion. It looks like it's starting to do something, then no, it goes back. And it looks like it's just going back to the same old blob building that it was doing before. Now we'll jump ahead here in a moment and then see ultimately what happens. And so, as hard as it is to believe, the thing actually gets back to building the road that it was doing in the first place. After some delay, it finally gets back there, and despite the obstacle, it still builds the highway.